AEW is far too violent, is something you hear from a lot of AEW's biggest critics. Ever since the company was formed back in 2019, one of the biggest digs against it has been its over-reliance seemingly on hardcore wrestling, extreme moments, and just upping the ante at every single turn. And Wrestle Dream this past weekend was no different. At Wrestle Dream, we saw Jon Moxley and Darby Allin engaged in what can only be described as one of the most brutal I Quit matches in pro wrestling history. And the ante was definitely upped. And this has caused a resurgence in the conversation about whether or not what AEW does in these rather extreme moments is good for the business as a whole, or if it's just hurting professional wrestling and AEW. And quite honestly, I'm beginning to think that there's something to it. Just bear with me. Let's talk about it. I'm Big Ohm for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's dive right in. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I thought that Wrestle Dream as a whole was a pretty great show. You had a more condensed card than AEW usually has. They usually have like 12 matches on the card. Instead, they ended up with, I believe, 9 in total, which is an improvement for something that starts at 8 p.m. local time. But obviously, everyone's talking about the big I Quit match that main evented the show. And this comes after Darby Allin and Jon Moxley have been at each other's throat for nearly a year. You have the culmination of their feud in this big epic encounter. Who of these two legendary badasses in pro wrestling will be the one to say I quit? That was a big part of the build. Whether or not there was anything in the world that could make Darby Allin or Jon Moxley utter those words. And I thought that it was a fantastic way to build up this match. You do have two of the more daredevil personalities in pro wrestling. You have Jon Moxley, who has made himself into a modern day Onita, Terry Funk type, who is not scared of anything as far as the extreme violence that can happen in the ring. And then on the flip side, you have Darby Allin, the dude who climbed Mount Everest because he felt like it. The dude who put himself through a glass pane at Sting's last match. The same guy who, during this match, had a nail cut out from under him with a chicken skewer, was drowned multiple times, tased at one point, thrown across out of the ring onto a table, and eventually still found a way to win. And when I mention these things, I mention them, one, to kind of recap what happened, but also because I do think that AEW may have a little bit of an issue. And I say this as someone, again, who enjoyed the pay-per-view, who enjoyed this match, even though it was insane. But my bigger point here is that I think these types of matches have a place in modern wrestling. I think that there's certainly room for the Moxleys and the Darbys to go at it. There's certainly room for these encounters. My problem with the way that AEW has done these, though, is that I think they happen probably too often. This does not mean you shouldn't have blood in big matches. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have blood in big TV matches. It's more than just blood. I know that's a big thing people like to focus on, but I don't really care too much. What I care about are the more specific, violent moments. Things like the ripping out of fingernails. Things like the use of baseball bats. Things like drowning people, right? And setting people on fire, for that matter. I mean, these two just do whatever they want to each other. And I think if you made it so these types of things only happen like once or maximum twice a year, that's fine. But it does feel like at nearly every single pay-per-view, we do get these over-the-top, extreme, violent matches. And the issue becomes, what do you have to do to up the stakes at the next one? We had this match this month. Last month, we had the big match between Mark Briscoe and MJF. The month before that, you had the match between Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, Texas Death. Earlier in the year, you had Adam Copeland and Jon Moxley in an Extreme Rules match where Mox had spikes thrown into his back that Wheeler Yuta had to rip out. It was insane. So my big takeaway here is not that AEW needs to stop this entirely, but I do think that it should be special when Jon Moxley and Darby Allin do this type of thing, because this should be a thing that only they do. And that doesn't mean you can't have big brawls and big hardcore matches, but I think the stakes need to be lowered, because in the end, that will help keep the wrestlers a little bit safer. But also, when you do get these insane batshit moments between the likes of Darby and Mox, it means even more and it feels even more spectacular. So I hope that the nuance wasn't lost there. I hope that people can still look at this as a good faith argument. I'm sure that people are already complaining in the comments about me being a WWE shill, which I am. Paul, send that check. I'm ready. You know my bank account. But I want to hear from you guys, obviously. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of Darby versus Mox. Personally, I thought it was really good storytelling above everything. Like the fact that Mox was in tears trying to get this man to quit. And this was like one of the few things and the few ways that he ever has shown emotion as this character. It adds a different element. Like Mox was genuinely terrified at the prospect of not winning this match. So in my view, I thought it was a good storytelling match and I thought the pieces were there. I just think that it feels a little less weighted because of the fact that we've seen a lot of violent matches already over the past calendar year in AEW. But again, your comments, your questions, your opinions are what I am here for. Let me know down below. Be sure to consider becoming a channel member. If you become a channel member, you get access to a lot of exclusive videos, all video essays you're gonna get early, so go check that out as well. Till next time, I'm Big Ohm for Real Take Wrestling. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.